Hello guys, so welcome to the detailed prognosis for 2020 for those who want to know exactly what's going on month by month. So everyone who is a little bit into astrology already knows that everything that is happening this year is very much in the energy of Capricorn, and that it is brought to us by this huge conjunction of Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter in Capricorn that we are experiencing actually from the very beginning of the year. This whole Capricornian process and its meaning is explained thoroughly in my other video. And here I'm gonna go more into the timing, but just to quickly recap. So this stellium in Capricorn, so the conjunction of Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, and the South Node for some time in Capricorn, brings us a year of really having to face harsh realities, because Capricorn is the sign of Saturn, and Saturn is the ruler of our matrix, of our laws and regulations that rule this earth, also physical laws, but also governmental laws. So it concerns our entire structure and framework of laws and rules that we live by as societies. And then Pluto coming into that means that all of this is going to be transformed, because Pluto brings transformation. We didn't know how this will happen, but we knew as astrologers that 2020 was going to be the year where there's going to be huge structural changes in our governments. Now we know how it is going to happen because we see what's going on. There's a virus that, first of all, puts everyone into very unprepared, very huge responsibility towards the people. The governments have to show their capability of protecting us, of dealing with dangerous situations. And those who are the strongest, who have the best systems, they are the ones who are going to protect their people adequately. And those who have cracked systems, like, for example, the US health system, those governments are going to struggle immensely with dealing with this crisis. So this crisis is kind of a test for all governments to test the structures they have built for their people. Okay, so this whole energy, this whole topic of, testing this was kicked off at 6th of January when Saturn came into an exact conjunction with Pluto for the first time. So this happened from 6 to 15 January. This is kind of the kickoff. And that was also pretty much when the story of Corona started spreading. So we started the year out with a huge Capricorn party. There's been Mercury, Jupiter, South Node, Sun, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn from the very beginning of the year. So it means the start of this year was not an easy one. There was a lot of heavy energy that was serious, as if, we felt like long before this happened that something serious was going to happen, that we need to buckle up, that we need to, get serious about our life, and that we need to find some stability, that we need to focus, that we need to get really serious. This already happened at the beginning of December when Jupiter moved into Capricorn. And in January, it became really intense. So this corona virus started spreading in order to bring people into this energy. So what does this energy exactly want from us? Well, it wants us to reinspect structures on each level. So on a personal level, that means reinspect structures in your life. How does your life work out for you? Like your job, your family circle, your friends circle, the area you live in, what you do every day. How is this working out for you? Is this what you really want to do? Like now, in a time where you probably can't go to work because of Corona, you can't go out, you can't do anything, and you're really left with yourself. What do you really want to do? Like, you get the chance to reset your life and to reset all the structures and to understand if they really make you happy or not. Maybe in this situation you realize that you actually just enjoy doing completely other things that you've been doing for years in your daily life. So this break really gives you the opportunity to reassess that. It also gives you an opportunity to reassess the government and say, well, how safe is this actually, this capitalistic structure that we're living in? Because apparently it seems to break down with the tiniest fluctuation of health or other matters out of the control of government. So it seems to be a system that is not at all prepared for shakeups. And maybe this will lead to people losing faith in capitalism. Maybe this will make you think of other jobs that you are worth pursuing that actually have a future. And it might make you understand that maybe this illusionary security that you have been building all your life is just that, an illusion. Maybe your job is not that safe at all. Maybe your house is not that safe at all when suddenly there's a situation that is out of control. So I think it points very much to what jobs are necessary, because those are the jobs that are very important right now in those times of crisis. So now you're getting the chance to readjust your values and your mindsets, because this is Jupiter. Jupiter is in this too. He represents our worldview. How do we see the world? And what framework do we live in? So it gives you a chance to really completely change that and readjust that and create new values, new worldviews, and new structures in your life. But first of all, it makes you stop, and it makes you not be in the future, not be in the past, but just really fully be in the present. Really like be in the nothingness of having nothing to do, nowhere to go, no way to distract yourself, just be present. So between the 7th and 10th of January, while we had also the Saturn and Pluto exact conjunction, there was another aspect, which was Jupiter coming into Capricorn and conjuncting the South Node. The South Node deals with our past behavioral patterns and actually behavioral structures that we want to let go of. So Jupiter conjunct the South Node might have confronted us for those 4 days with some old belief systems and old mindsets that we had. Maybe something in the outside world or some situation we came into triggered some old ways of behavior. And maybe we felt limited in our freedom somehow, because Jupiter represents freedom. And we remembered some old feelings and some old repeating situations in which we used to feel trapped. So this was the 7th to 10th of January. It might give us a clue of what also we're going to be changing in our mind, which mindsets and which beliefs. So remember what happened for you between the 7th and 10th of January that made you feel like you were confronted with structures from the past, or pushed into a role or into a mindset or into a behavior that felt very old for you, that you remembered from the past, but you don't want to act or think like this anymore. And at the same time, it gave us the opportunity to let go of this and to start creating new mindsets, beliefs, and structures. February. So in February, we still have the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto going on. But on the 7th of February, we have Jupiter moving out of orb with the South Node and coming into orb with Saturn and Pluto, which means it became a triple conjunction on the 7th of February, which means Jupiter really tends to make everything he touches huge. So he now starts emphasizing this Saturn-Pluto topic and starts making it really big. And also because Jupiter represents the system of law and jurisdiction, it starts bringing the courts and the laws and like law reinforcements into play, which is when the situation in Italy started getting bad and the government started getting involved, and they started to, create different regulations and rules for that. The next thing that happened that was very important was that Mars came into Capricorn on February 17th. And Mars really kicked this off. Because the other planets, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, are transcendental planets or social planets, so to say. So they are not personal planets. They are not on Earth, you know, they are more like more further away energies. But Mars, moving into this, Mars is like the warrior, like the soldier, you know, walking on Earth and carrying out the orders of Saturn and Pluto. So he is starting to make this thing real. Plus Mars brings in a warrior energy, so like kind of an aggression, and gives also energy. So it gave energy to the virus, to this whole situation, and it started to become big, to spread quickly. And Mars can also bring hastiness and impatience. So, you know, governments start to get really afraid and scared and start mobilizing soldiers, start mobilizing the police, and start doing something, because Mars energy is also about doing. So they feel so pushed and so is so pushed into the corner and need to do something urgently. Whereas it might not really be that urgent, to be honest, because Mars is a quick moving planet and it will leave Capricorn as well on the 31st of March. But let's first look at a few other things that happened in February before we move on to April, which is Mercury retrograde in Pisces, which happened from February 17th to March 10th, almost a month of Mercury retrograde. Mercury is about communication. He's the messenger. It's about transferring information. So Mercury being retrograde means there was no clear information, no clear communication, no knowing, like just fog, clouded minds. And it is what happened with Italy. You know, they kind of got this huge epidemic while the Mercury was in retrograde. So they were struck really hard, and I think this is the reason, because they didn't have adequate information. They were one of the first countries in Europe to get really strong reactions of the epidemic, and they didn't expect it. There was no real clear communication that this was something really dangerous, so they didn't prepare. And this is the Mercury, this is kind of the fault of Mercury retrograde in Pisces, because he prevented clear communication to get out. And yeah, that ended on March 10th. So since March 10th, there is a bit more clarity in the communication. So the next countries who got hit already knew and already could prepare. But however, Mercury is still in Pisces until April 10th, which means there is still something unclear. Obviously, there is still something unclear about the virus. But when Mercury leaves Pisces on April 10th, this is where we will kind of get clearer information about what's going on and what this really is, how dangerous it really is. There's going to be like less rumors and more facts. Now, March. On March 9th is when the situation really starts getting tight, because Jupiter comes into a really tight orbit with Pluto and Saturn, and Mars starts aspecting the whole triangle. So this is when we really came into lockdown. We understood that this is a serious situation, and we understood that we're losing our freedom. We understood that this is going to have serious implications for us. We are going to face limitations. We are going to face isolation. We're going to face all of those Saturn things. And in the days after that, as Mars comes closer to Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto, fear and oppression and rules and regulations start to reach their high point. So the 19th of March is a moment where, Jupiter and Mars are in an exact conjunction, and that's when I think there's gonna be laws made. Because governments feel very pressured. Mars is bringing this pressure to Jupiter, which is about law and regulations. So they will need to start making up rules and curfews and limitations for the citizens, because they themselves are very scared and have this, and also feel this huge Capricornian pressure to take responsibility and, live up to their task of being this paternal governmental figure. So Mars will stay in Capricorn until the 31st of March. So it means the situation can stay intense until the 31st of March. Or even until the 5th of April because of the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, but I'll talk about that in a second. So definitely the situation can be very intense until 31st of March. However, on the 22nd of March already, Saturn is moving into Aquarius. Saturn, like the planet that is really giving the biggest vibe of limitation into this whole scenario, that creates this need to impose rule, order, and regulation and limitation, is leaving the whole scenario. So I assume that now between the 19th and the 23rd of March is where most of rules and regulations will be passed. If there's going to be a curfew, if there's going to be, rules about people not leaving the houses or shops having to be closed or whatever, it's probably going to happen in this time, like between the 19th and the 23rd. Then between the 23rd and the 31st, these rules are probably still going to be in place. And I think that when Mars then leaves the whole scenario and Mars and Saturn are both in Aquarius, that's when something is going to change. And I'll talk about that in a second when I come to April. Because I first want to say something else about March. This whole Capricornian thing is not the only thing that's happening. So if you watched my other video about the general prognosis of 2020, you know about Uranus in Taurus. So we've got Uranus in Taurus. Uranus, who is the revolutionary, in Taurus, that is Mother Earth. So Mother Earth is starting a revolution. Environment wants to breathe again. And in the background of this whole fear-related scenario, we all know that this is what's happening. The earth is breathing again, waters are clearing up, people are going to parks and enjoying the nature, forests are blossoming again, flowers are growing everywhere. Mother Earth is regenerating from human pollution. And it's as if, she started her own measures to detoxify from humans. So with Uranus and Taurus, like this whole big transit from 2018 to 2025, we're going to see a huge improvement in the environment. And in the background, yes, our task is to redefine governments and to redefine responsibility in our own lives. But also there's other processes in the background. And one of them is that Uranus and Taurus is bringing, also very intense and surprising events that need to wake us up to our responsibility towards the environment. And obviously we didn't do well because I think in the last 2 years since Uranus entered into Taurus, we did have a chance to, get on with this topic to prove that we can take responsibility for the environment. And apparently we didn't do well. So I guess this virus will also show us how quickly and easily the environment can regenerate from us. And then I hope that we will, keep this up, that we will align our values and priorities in order to support the ecosystem, and that also science will support it with new inventions. And when Venus trines this triple conjunction in Capricorn, from the 27th of March to the 4th of April, I guess these are the days when there's going to be a lot of news about the wonderful changes that have happened in the ecosystem. This will kind of break through a little bit more than the fear. Okay, April. In April, we've got both Saturn and Mars now in Aquarius. Aquarius is about the community, it is about science and about technology. So what's going to start happening here, definitely like a big shift from responsibility in the hands of the governments to responsibility in the hands of the people and of the community. I think people are gonna start being responsible, start organizing themselves, and science might have a breakthrough in that period. Like there might actually be a solution for corona in the scientific field. So this is between March 31st and May 12th is when I expect there to be a scientific breakthrough that can hinder or impede the spreading of the virus. And especially when Mercury moves into Taurus on April 28th to May 11th, and especially though between April 28th and May 1st, when Mercury is in exact conjunction with Uranus, I really expect there to be some, information to the public that solutions have been found or there has been some progress. I expect this really to be a moment of offering solutions, not only for the virus, but also maybe governments offering new solutions to people for minimizing the debt or the disadvantages that they have suffered from this whole scenario. So it can be a moment of like progressive negotiations, because Mercury is about contracts and negotiations, about thinking up solutions, and in conjunction with Uranus, it can really mean something new, like breakthrough, revolutionary changes in this area. So yeah, by April 28th to May 11th, I think this will be a moment of redefining solutions and offering new solutions and making new laws and structures that can support people better. But still, although Saturn and Mars have left Capricorn, there is still Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn, and they're still conjunct in there. So we are not through this process yet. There's still substantial energy in Capricorn. It means Jupiter is about worldviews, beliefs, mindset, and laws, and Pluto is about transformation. So there will still, like in April, very strongly be transformations and changes in the mindsets of people and how they view the world and how they view their lives and how they view their governments. There will still be a lot of challenges for governments. They will still be on the spotlight. Each and every government will be so on the spotlight in showing how efficiently they can work or not. So there can be people in countries that really bond with their governments and really feel thankful and happy, and there can be huge crises in other countries where the people are disappointed in the governments and blame them for wrongdoings or poorly handling the situation. And this is still happening through April, through May, through the entire year. So this is constantly happening, although in April we get a bit of a breathe, a bit maybe of solution offering and less of oppression. So even if there is some restricting laws in in March and into mid-April, I do believe that in April at some point the situation will loosen up and we will get our freedom back because new solutions will have come out. Then comes May. And in May, the very first thing that happens is that on the 5th, we have a transition of the nodes into Gemini Sagittarius. The last time we had a transition of the nodes was in November 2018, so it's been a while, and it's always an intense event. And especially people who have Gemini and Sagittarius in their chart, or Pisces and Virgo, will be feeling this very strongly. The transition of the nodes means that the solution changes, the collective evolutionary focus changes. I've been talking about this in my other video as well. Find the link in the bio, in the description, about the nodes in Cancer and the North Node in general. So the North Node always shows what is the solution. You know, all of these things are happening, but what do we want to do? And while the North Node was in Cancer for the first half of the year, up until May 5th, what we wanted to do is just to, like cuddle up in our bed with our cuddly toys and get food or run home to mommy. We just wanted to hide. We just wanted to go somewhere where we can feel safe and nurtured and be a child again and just not take responsibility. That's basically what we felt. And obviously the pull was very strong, because what was demanded of us was exactly the opposite. It was to be an adult and take responsibility and handle this situation seriously. But all we wanted was just to retrieve and lick our wounds and have a bath and just take care of ourselves and our family. But when the nodes change into Gemini, so the North Node is in Gemini from May 5th, then our solution will be interaction. Gemini is the sign of connection. It's the messenger. So it's all about communicating and connecting people. And it is opposed to Sagittarius. And Sagittarius will be our South Node for the next 1.5 years, which means we want to let go of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a lot about traveling, about faraway lands, about philosophy and expanding our mind and expanding our horizons. And Gemini is all about really focusing on what's there, on our immediate surrounding, like relating to what's already there, to the people that are already there, to our neighbors, to our friends that live in the same city. It's about really connecting with your immediate environment. And that's something we have not been doing at all. If we look at how the world has been developing in the past, everybody was just looking afar, looking into the next journey onto the other continent, looking, to connect with gurus and teachers, but not to, really spend time and connect with their neighbor and the guy who, who sells you your bread every morning, and just community, like immediate community. It's all getting back to that with the North Node in Gemini. And talking, Gemini is all about honest, truthful communication, as well as opening up perspectives, like seeing every situation from all the perspectives there are and not getting fixed on one belief. Sagittarius is very, very pragmatic and very preachy. Like when it fixates on something, it's really convinced that this is the one and only truth. It's the Sagittarian thing to believe that they own the one and only truth and that they need to convince the whole world about it. So we really want to let go of this belief that there is something like the one and only truth, and understand that everything is the truth, just seen from a different angle. That's Gemini. And on the 23rd of May, there is the first new moon in Gemini with the Gemini nodes. So that's going to be like a inauguration of this new nodal theme. All right. And when that starts, we get a retrograde season in order to integrate everything that's happened. The retrograde season officially starts on May 14th. That's when the first planet goes retrograde, and that's Jupiter. Sorry, that was a mistake. Jupiter is actually the last planet that goes retrograde. The first one is Saturn on May 11th, and then Venus on May 13th, and then Jupiter on May 14th. And Pluto already went retrograde on April 25th, but Pluto is retrograde half of the time anyways. But, it's important to mention that he's also retrograde all along. So we got the whole conjunction of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter going retrograde, plus Venus going retrograde, plus Mercury coming to go retrograde very soon as well. So there's like a huge halt, like a break, stop in May, from May 11th onwards. But for surely from May 14th. And it may feel like a moment to breathe again, because retrogrades are not things, phases where a lot of things happen. It's like stagnation, it's about reflecting what's been happening. So I think this whole May and June will be a moment where we will really reflect on what happened to us in this first part of the year. Like collect yourself again and go slowly and start to check with Pluto retrograde, we're going to check and reflect on what traumatized us and what has been destroyed in this process, and what transformative lessons we took from this, and maybe what power we have discovered within ourselves. But also looking at authorities, it will make us reflect on how was power used by authorities in these situations. And since Pluto is also looking at the bottom of everything, it will also make us start looking at what was actually happening during this corona crisis in the background. What did governments do in the background while all of this was happening? And there is certainly a few things that can be shared on this topic that I'm not going to go into now. But yeah, it is definitely reflecting on what, what deeper transformation took place here for humans and for Earth. With the retrograde of Saturn, we are going to revisit how governments have dealt with this, who took the proper measures and who stood up to their responsibility, and who just overdid it with the limiting and the repression. And we're also going to look at what happened to capitalism, what happened to economy. And we can't forget that Uranus is in Taurus still, and Uranus plays into this, and it still wants us to reinvent our relationship to the material and to the financial security. So with Uranus, with bringing Uranus into this whole scenario, you can see that he kind of had his fingers in here in order to demonstrate to us how fragile our capitalistic structures are, and those safeties that we imagine we build, they can crumble very, very quickly. And Uranus is like, think further than capitalism, think, future. This is Uranus. Okay, so with Venus retrograding from May 13th to June 25th, we really want to take it slow on restarting our businesses. Maybe this is our time where things start to, loosen up again with the virus, and we want to, start again earning money and everything, but we might, have to draw our balances and see that we are actually not in a very favorable position economically, because Venus deals with money and our finances. So Venus retrograde might be a period for us where we're actually struggling to get out of our financial crisis, and maybe also rethinking the ways we're making money. However, Venus also deals with relationships. So maybe when all of this is over, around mid-May, we might suddenly realize that throughout all of this crisis, there has been certain people that we have thought of. In these moments where you think the world is ending, who are you thinking of? Who, is that is in your mind deep down there, or in your heart? And in the Venus retrograde, we might strongly feel that there is maybe a beloved person from the past, or a family member we don't talk to, or a past lover that we really strongly feel we need to get back in touch with and resolve something or continue something. Jupiter going retrograde from May 14th to September 13th is definitely revisiting our belief system and what we thought of the world before Corona versus what we think of the world after Corona, and the reality that has been revealed by this crisis. And throughout that time, we've got Mars in Pisces with Neptune. So from May 13th to June 27th, Mars is in Pisces, which is a very chilled Mars. So there's not much pressure on us. We don't feel like we need to do a lot. It's really like a recovery. Like from mid-May to end of June, for me, is a recovery and reflection period. That is all still underpinned by Mercury, who is in Cancer, and also goes retrograde in June, from June 11th to July 12th. So it again puts us into a deep introspection of our own emotions, what we need and what we feel, and it might make us want to cave in a little bit more and yeah, just pamper ourselves and deal with our little child inside of us. As well, in June, there's going to be 2 eclipses. On the 5th of June, there's going to be a full moon lunar eclipse. And on the 21st of June, there's going to be a new moon solar eclipse. So full moons are usually times where we like to end something. Eclipses always demand a decision from us. So on the full moon on the 5th of June, there's definitely gonna be like some sharp decisions made, maybe as a conclusion of this whole scenario that has happened. And on the 21st of June, the new moon solar eclipse in Cancer is a recap, definitely, because it's still, the eclipse is still connected to the old sign of the node, Cancer, Capricorn. So, and it is the last eclipse that happens in the Cancer Capricorn axis. So this one is definitely like a complete recap and restart of the last 1.5 years. Okay, so this is the first part of the year, and I'm gonna be back soon with the analysis for the second half of the year and to see how we're gonna get through summer and if this disaster is really over or if there's more to expect for the year to come.